Welcome to Smart in the City, the Babel podcast. I am your host, Tamlin Shimizu, and really at Babel, we aim to connect the players in the smart city industry with high quality information and ideas through our platform and services. This podcast is really an extension of this goal and mission to drive the change for a better urban life. So today is very exciting. We are back with our H2020 EU-funded project, SPARCS, speaking with one of the fellow cities of the project, Kladno in the Czech Republic, live actually at the Smart City Expo in Barcelona. Within the project, they are working in the replication processes. So this episode will really explore what that means and how others can also replicate that success that we see in other cities. So first, of course, we have guests with us today because you don't want to just listen to me talking all day. So we have some wonderful guests. First off, wonderful colleague of mine. I said wonderful way too many times just now, but it's true. So we have Gretel Shah. She's a regional manager of Babel Iberia and also, of course, the project lead from Babel for the SPARCS project. And it's your first time on the show. So welcome, Gretel.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here.
Very excited to have another one of our colleagues on, so you all can get to know us all eventually one of these days. So, and of course, we also have a wonderful special guest with us today, David Škorňa. He is the head of Project SPARCS for the city of Kladno. So yeah, welcome.
Warm greetings from the Kladno.
Yeah, Kladno representing Czech Republic. I actually just had someone on from Prague as well. So we're really getting into this Czech Republic thing. So, and actually Kladno is quite close to Prague, right?
Yeah, it is like 20 kilometers and we call them like it's a surrounding of the Kladno, you know?
Yeah, the outskirts, really. So getting some of the benefits, hopefully, from being close to the big city, but still with that small city environment. So
yeah, definitely.
Cool. So, we're a bit tired. Maybe we've been, visiting and talking with lots of people at the expo, and so I always like to get a little bit more warmed up in energy with a little teaser. And I am wondering, what is your favorite memory from SPARCS so far? And it better include Gretel. No.
For me, definitely meeting people eventually. Since
last week, right?
Yeah, it was last week, very intensive consortium meeting, Kifisia in Greece. And for me, it was like first really big event since the beginning of the SPARCS, which is very sad in one side. And on the other side, it was very exciting and very lovely.
Yeah. Also from your side, Gretel?
Yes, it's very interesting because the project started in 2019. We had the kickoff in Espoo, and a couple of months afterwards, the pandemic started. So it was for the first time now in Kifisia, we were meeting many people. We have been working together for 3 years, and it feels like we know each other very well because we have seen in camera in many video meetings. But for the first time, we're like, well, actually, I think this is the first time we're seeing each other in person.
And you're like, wow, you have a body. You're taller than I thought or shorter than I thought. I always get the shorter thing. So great. So I would love to get more into your background, David, because I think it really helps to get a little bit of context. Where have you come from? What's your story? How did you end up working for the city of Kladno?
Oh, it's a very long story behind, I would say, because in the previous job, I was like programming the EU funds for the Czech Republic as a part of ministerial, let's say, environment. And then I just went from the Prague to Kladno, actually, which is, it's very interesting because it works in opposite, right? So, but I need to relax a bit and do really specific tasks, and international projects. SPARCS was just amazing, from the beginning, and exploiting in the environment in the city, which is having really mining and heavy industry history, and also opportunities in one way, since the Prague is not that far, and it provides you lots of potential position work, but in the same time, lots of people are traveling every day to the Prague, and so on. So yeah, it was challenging, and I just took the role and trying my best there. Yeah.
Well, I already know you're doing an amazing job. I would love to hear from Gretel, maybe from your perspective on really what Sparks is. Let's give a little bit more context to our listeners. I mean, they hopefully listened to the ESPO episode already and have a little bit of context. But in case you didn't, here is a little bit more info about the project.
And if you feel like you did not have enough after this podcast, you can go back and hear the ESPO.
Advice.
You hear the ESPO episode, which has been very, very interesting. So SPARCS is a Horizon 2020 funded project. It started in 2019 and it runs until 24. The focus of the project is to promote the uptake of and the development of positive energy districts and citizen-driven energy communities. So what it means in like simpler words is we want to create spaces that generate more energy than they consume, really having an impact or reduce the impact cities have in climate and environment, and putting citizens at the center of this transition, really making this a bottom-up approach. And I think something very, very interesting from these type of projects is the diversity of cities and partners that participate in. We have 2 lighthouse cities, which are Espoo, the one that was in the podcast before, and Leipzig in Germany. But we also have what we call fellow cities, which are cities that are first not at the center stage of the project when they are implementing, but they in a second stage of the project, which is happening now. They also take a part in what we will be talking about, replication. And these 5 fellow cities are Maja from Portugal, Reykjavik in Iceland, Kladno, the Czech Republic, Kifisia in Greece, and Lviv in Ukraine.
Wonderful. So for the people, replication, what does that really mean, though, at its core?
Yeah, I think you would hear different definitions. And I think each project has its own approach on how to address replication and what ultimately replication means. In a way, the goal is that the first implementations that take in the lighthouse cities have like a consequence or are taken by the fellow cities. But replication is not just copy and pasting directly, but really adapting it to the local context, to the local realities. Even between fellow cities, they come from very different geographies and challenges. So the project also takes a big effort into putting time in this replication, but mainly this adaptation to what the cities need and how they can actually use what has been implemented in the lighthouse cities, and how this can make create most benefits for them.
Yeah, really interesting. So copy, edit, and paste
Yes.
a bit more. Okay, good. David, do you see replication similar in your role in Sparks? Or do you have something to add there?
For us at the beginning, it's about learning and listening, because we definitely are in the different situation than other cities, and as Gretel correctly stated, we need to adapt it to the local conditions and see whether it makes sense or not. And of course, you have to start with city diagnosis, because if you don't know the details about your city, you don't have a data, you don't have for instance, smart city tools where you're collecting the data continuously. You're not able to even base the solution because you don't know if it fits into the local context. So for us, it's about learning and listening, the colleagues, and also it means looking around how to get on the board other inspiration from other fellow cities. For instance, for us, it means looking more intensively to the Leipzig case, since the historical background, industrial background, it's pretty similar as it is in Czech Republic. Also the Lviv inspiration and so on. Because imagine we can't just steal the geothermal energy from the Iceland and put it into the Kladno context.
That would be cool.
Oh yeah, that would be definitely cool. But the conditions and the physical condition at the first are just totally different. And I can't imagine that colleagues from Reykjavik would steal our ideas about the woods and the biodiversity we have in Kladno and put it into the place. So it has to be adapted. It has to be adapted all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've touched also on this wide geographical span of all the cities that are within this. And I know that's really interesting, but also maybe can be a challenge. What do you think about working with the cities from the different corners in Europe? And what are the challenges associated with the different cultures, languages, etc.?
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot. I have to say, from my perspective, it's very important to somehow analyze what the colleagues are doing exactly. General talks and chit chat, about let's talk about smart cities. It's a good start, but then at the end of the day, you need to know the details. You need to know legislation background, which is in Czech case very difficult and very different than in other states and countries. You need to know how the city administration works, who's responsible for what. You need how the partnership could be exploited in the different countries, because I know that one of the key success factor in the lighthouse cities, for instance, is very intensive collaboration with the business partners. It's not that common in Czech environment, and it could make the solution you targeted on much more easier in the future. So kind of repuzzling the solutions they are, let's say, presenting from our colleagues to understand the details and come back through the city diagnosis data and some proposals in our Kladno case and see whether the replication might work,
Yeah, you mentioned Leipzig is maybe one of the most similar cities for you. Which cities are the most similar and the most different, do you think?
Yeah, from SPARCS family, I would say the Reykjavik and Espoo cases are a bit far than the Czech case.
Yeah.
I think it's most connected with the physical conditions,
Yeah.
and like the German case and probably Lviv case and partially also from Kifisi and Maya, it's been much more closer since the, let's say, overall energy balance and these kind of issues are also connected with the coal and natural gas systems, which is also the case of the Czech Republic. So then you see, because our energy balance is more based on the coals since so far, unfortunately, and natural gas as well, which is critical now in these days, right? So we are starting from the scratch, dealing with really exploiting the renewables, different solutions in the energy. So this is kind of like general basic situation for energy transformation.
Yeah, and I really wanted to talk to you about that also today, a little bit more about this unique background as a mining city that Kladno has. So with this such a strong coal industry background, how can we transition to a more sustainable energy system?
Very difficult question, I have to say. Our situation is also unique because the main producer, it's a private-owned company. So actually, they're producing the heat for the city, and it's been made from the coal, of course. It's like 98%. The rest is renewables or biomass. And it's actually their decision what they do, right? It's a business company, so they decide, they do. And we're trying to influence them through the negotiation or through our CCAP plan. And also, I have to say, in this term, the regulation and legislation is very important. The Green Deal is kind of targeting some goals, right? And these companies will be influenced by these, let's say, rules and conditions. But the current situation is, again, going against these goals, since we are mostly talking now about security and assurances for the citizens in terms of heating during the winter.
Yeah. So one tip that you could give to other cities who are maybe have a similar background, what would you give?
I would say targeting some diversification in the infrastructure you can influence. In our case, it means that we are trying to set up the business plan for the city company as far as renewables, photovoltaic systems on our buildings, which, for instance, in our case, are 200. So it's not like, low number, and you still can earn and produce some renewable energy from PVs you might install, and we have decided to do it through our city new company. So it's a kind of a bit diversification, and you are lowering consumption, which is made from the electricity and a heat system, which is based on the coal or natural gas. But it's still a small step, since in the balance, it's a still low number.
Yeah, Greta looks like she has a pressing thing she wants to add. So.
Yeah, I think there is one point I just wanted to highlight from what David said, because the point of actually the cities cannot do this work alone. We put a lot of pressure, and governments and like the whole discussion is like putting pressure on the cities, like what they're doing, how they regulate and everything. But also cities, we see that in SPARCS, we see that in many other projects, that you have to collaborate with others. And as was David pointing before, you have to build that environment where others will pick up your efforts, your targets, and it's not easy. And it's about convincing them and like really for them to see what they will get from all of this, and like really convincing people on that the transition makes sense, because we have to achieve certain targets. We do have... we're very challenged by climate change and other global challenges. And it is finding that spot where, by talking to others and building these relationships and really having a constant exchange with others, and finding the ways around in which companies will pick up these ideas and really make their own, where this massive transition will take place. And I know David has been working on that, and it's definitely for any cities. It's a difficult process to really work with others, but also convince them on what targets are those relevant and are worth achieving.
How do we convince them? Is it the business case?
Actually, we have, at the beginning, I just realized through the work on the SACUP, which was very intensive 1 year work, and because, again, city diagnosis, data, knowledge about the city, and the suggestions from the SACUP are totally clear, but very, I would say, very harsh. Because the SACUP, in our case, is telling us, hey guys, 10% of the SACUP you can influence directly. And 90%, you can't influence directly. You need the partners. You need not only partners for instance, PPP projects, but you need them because they own infrastructure. For instance, as I was talking about the heating company. And at the same time, we just realized, okay, let's set up the platform. Let's set up the platform and partnership ecosystem. So we have invited, 30, 40 partners. Yeah, it was also a transport operator, for instance, because of the electromobility in public transportation. There is a distributor. There is also good companies from national level who are owning the electricity networks, and so on and so on. And for me, it was a nice moment, because after a couple of first discussions, they came and say, hey, it's a like first or second talk after like 10 years. So it's nice that you invited us. Because so far was mostly about the negotiation, about particle projects. But now the platform is very crucial, because it's for us, it's like core tool. We come back to that all the time. We use it for on-sites in the SPARCS. We use it for the vision talks. We use it for the bilateral negotiation about, starting some projects. And some of them are already running in the design. Some of them are already being realized. So yeah, that was crucial, like waking up, we need some other colleagues. But these 10%, we try to show good examples that we can do something in this energy balance. And one case is the energy company we are about to set up. Another is like the huge wave of building retrofit we are preparing now, showing to households, showing to industry that it's worth it. And also, it's still far away from the citizens, right? These kind of, energy retrofit, what that means. Okay, it's about the schools, not about my house, and so on and so on. So now we are about to submit, actually today, one of the projects to the LIFE program about public experts to help steering the situation of households and citizens in their houses, what they can do, and so on. So showing small, middle, big cases as a demonstration that it's worthy, that the rest can do something next to that. And then at the end of the day, we are just looking forward to count all this stuff by 2030 and say, yeah, we are now nearby being carbon zero neutral.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and good luck on that as well. So what about trying to bring innovation in from outside the Czech Republic? Maybe like to drive the energy transformation in this case. Can you give a way in which you can bring more innovation to cities at all?
I think this is also good learning from the SPARCS, that we somehow look at the things we are preparing from different angles. Because most of the time before, it was like, yeah, we need to do it very fast. Let's do as business as usual and so on. So now we are trying to get on the board colleagues from Bable, for instance, from Fraunhofer, and from other cities to somehow wait for a second and see whether there is no other, smart adjustment to the solution we need to solve. So the innovation gathering is very important. I would say not like outcome, but the principle of the SPARCS and these kind of projects. And SPARCS just opened also other opportunities. So from the January, we are starting with Under Horizon as a city. As a local flex, we'll be solving the energy flexibility, 2-3 demo buildings, which is another, I would say, total innovation step, right? To see how to create a market, how to work with surpluses or lack of energy in the buildings and so on. And it's also thanks to the communication and collaboration with the partners and seeing what's happening abroad. But in the same time, it's not about the foreign, let's say, experience. We have lots of really good cities in the Czech Republic who are already doing good stuff. So thanks to also our contacts we are part of the lots of unions and platforms and talking with the cities and other institutions in the Czech Republic.
Cool, thanks. Gretel, do you also have something to add there?
Yes, because I think what David just said, this, being there, being exposed, there are many opportunities out there. So it's also about harnessing them, and also like something that we are also trying from SPARCS is to support the cities with the what we call the market consultation process. Market engagement has many different names, wherever that's translated. And really the idea is to bring closer the market to the cities, really have a good overview and understanding of what's available in the market, what's the best solution you can get for your challenges. And this, in a way, it's one step to look at procurement in a different way, not just procuring, maybe you see one thing that's available and then you buy that, but rather looking at, well, this is my challenge. This is what I need to address. What solutions, what products, services exist out there that my city can leverage on? And then you design the requirements and write the requirements for the tender in a different way. So you really take that as feedback from the market. And this we are enabling through, I'm really excited because we have recently developed this tool, which first of all encourages cities to use this market consultation process, something that is recognized by EU law and also like in the national markets. And it's a way of engaging, really communicating and having this two-way interaction with the market, with the wider ecosystem that David was mentioning before, at an early stage, before you have already written the requirements, are already buying, but really at an early stage. And what this tool, apart from promoting this element, does is also to help cities get in touch with energy or like mobility and any solution provider in Europe, and we're testing that now also very soon with Maya in Portugal. And I think it's really going back to that point of engaging with the market at different stages, at the very early stage of transforming and agreeing on the goals that you have for the city, till you get to the project level. So it's really like taking these different steps and engaging, and it does seem like it's something like it should happen naturally, but you just said that it does not. And like we think, oh, it's obvious they should engage on this, or they should transform how they produce energy, or how they do this or that, these other companies. But it's really by having these common forums and having these conversations that we start to create change, and like go to also beyond what the organization is, and like go through people who are making change in organizations.
So I've been hearing a lot at this expo, and one of our main goals at Babel, of course, is to try and get more innovations into cities quicker, right? At a speed that actually really helps meet our goals. So how does a tool like the Market Consultation, how does that accelerate the uptake of innovative solutions in cities?
Yeah. Well, first of all, getting exposed to what is out there. So the idea is that there is so much going on out there. We work or are in touch with many companies, and we ourselves that try to be that bridge do not know all the details of what's being produced, developed, because the market is in constant evolution. So we know there are certain solutions that have been already implemented. That's clear. That's already like the use cases that we take as reference. But there is so much more because companies are also adapting their services, their products to the city's need. And that's a market as any other in constant evolution. So what this tool can do, and like on with other approaches as well, is to really get to know by talking to the market how their solutions can answer the challenges, specific challenges that a city has. So you have a project idea, and you say, maybe I want to renovate a building. I want to make it more energy efficient, right? You have some conditions. Maybe it's a building that's protected, or it's a building that you don't own, or have some control to that. So you put out there your challenges to the market and try to get their answers to your challenges. So as a city, you don't have to come up with all the solutions. Of course, you give direction where you want to go, but then try and let the market answer that, and really find what's the best case for that.
David looks like he's interested in the topic. Do you have something to add there? Do you think cities need to be more transparent about their challenges also with the market?
Yeah, definitely. If you want to influence the solutions or your targets and your priorities, and as I was mentioning, in regard to the energy transformation, we need to talk to the partners. We need to talk to businesses, also banking sector, and so on. Because it's at the end of the day, it's also a matter of the funding, right, of the solution. And if you go higher and higher with technology, digitalization, and so on, it's much more expensive. So you need to somehow also trigger from the beginning some kind of financial strategy, how to really implement it. Yeah. Because if it's like costly, the return on investment is like one century. You can imagine how the politicians correctly will respond on that, right? Mm-hmm. So we try to somehow also, and I think this is about the smart cities as well, about the thinking, about the approaches you just put on the table when you're discussing some projects, that you need to think about funding and collaboration from the beginning. It's exactly our case with the public buildings retrofit. It will be very costly because we have a very old buildings, but in the same time, it's about schools, about the people who are in these buildings, and we have to ensure and secure some kind of environment where they're having lessons and so on. But it's very costly, and we have decided to use the EPC, energy performance contract scheme, to trigger and to help us somehow exploit more diversity in funding, because we have also EU grants in Czech Republic. So we will decrease the pressure on the budget by EU funds, but the rest will be also funded through the EPC model. So the idea could be good, but funding could be very tricky. But if you come with also funding strategy you can also involve and include some more technology and smart solutions because the funding scheme might handle with these solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one challenge that we've seen a lot with cities that we also try to support with at Babel is the funding aspect. How can we get money to actually support this? So we're running a bit out of time. So I want to give you, though, the opportunity now to talk about anything. If you feel like you need the floor, do you feel like you've covered all the topics you wanted to talk about today? Or do you want to talk about anything else, either one of you?
A lady first.
You don't have to take the floor. I just like giving it,
Yeah.
So.
No, I think David has lots to share from Czech Republic and all the work you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, we had. There was also amazing moment where we were introducing our strategy and our vision, for 2030 and 2050, which is, if you count it, it's like 15 mandates of politicians. So it's very far away. So it is very, I would say, tough job. But we try to accommodate this since we are also triggering the bold vision system, and we really need to discuss it, what that means for long-term period. But it was a moment when we were discussing what that means for the implementation, right? So we have prepared like 30 project proposals or something like that. And now depends on capacity we have. And this is something which is also good moment from the SPARCS and after SPARCS thing or parallel to the SPARCS things, because the SPARCS is helping us also with the capacity building. And in the Czech environment, it's not very easy to, let's say, hire good experts and to get some more funding for another colleagues to help steer your needs you have within the city administration. So the prioritization, concretization is very, very, very helpful, and this all leads to do also some innovation projects. For instance, we are very curious to see the cases in Europe regarding the energy communities exploitations. We are now preparing one of the projects as well for that. So maybe to be added like that.
Yeah, very exciting things coming for Kladno. It's going to be really interesting to watch. I think we're going to have to do another podcast episode in a year or so, or however long those projects take, and really see all the steps you've taken. So, so now it's time for one of our fun segment parts. Get ready and excited. So this is a segment that we call Flip the Script. Flip the script. You are the one asking the questions, and I'll be the one answering them. So normally in Flip the Script, you're the one asking the questions and I'm the one answering them. So the interviewer becomes the interviewee. And normally that's how it happens. But since we have two people here, I'm giving the burden now to Gretel and you. David, do you have a special question that you would like to ask Gretel then?
There will be lots of questions. Yeah, probably. One could be, you pretty know Kladno already, right? Or you can at least imagine from your experience similar cities with the similar background. For instance, the industrial. You have also Westphalen and this kind of regions where they compete with the situation. What would be like your I would say approach, or maybe let's say some tools, your input when you would be the part of the city administration of similar city in that city, how to change the situation if you see the Kladno and you saw the situation in the German cities. Sorry,
nice
maybe
question.
It's a harsh one. Sorry.
No, it's a nice question, I think.
That's how you both welcome me to the podcast.
First time, you got to get thrown in the water a little bit,
Yeah. Well, if that happens, then I'll definitely call you. I have your number and I'll call you, David. Like, how do I start with this? And I'm actually taking note of all you have done. And it just, besides the joke, it's really learning from others. I think in many of these cases, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Of course, each city context is unique and different from others. But there is so much that thinking creatively we can take and adapt. I take from you this engagement with a broad base of stakeholders, those that have also a lot of stake in these issues, also engaging with the citizens and really leveraging on different opportunities, like as you said, really building on what SPARCS has created, taking into other projects, engaging with cities that are similar, but also those that are maybe not so similar. Sometimes you learn from something else they have done. We learn every day from talking to cities from all over Europe on how they're addressing their different challenges, how they engage with stakeholders. And yeah, at the end, I think we don't have to forget we are people. We talk to each other, and there are, of course, the scenarios are complex, the challenges are complex, but I think thinking creatively, collaborating, working with each other and talking to each other and building on that can progressively make a big change. Hopefully that change comes at the right time when we need it.
So now.
No.
There is a sense of urgency. Yes. Very good question and very good answer. So well done. You've successfully completed the task. So there's only one question left in the whole episode, sadly. I know, very sad. But the question is the question we ask to every single guest. And it is to you, what is a smart city?
Smart city, I would say it's a smart people. It's about people all the time. If there are smart people, that means they are open to exploit new things, innovations, new ideas from colleagues from in other cities. It's about open yourself for the new knowledge, in sense that we are the fellow cities. We're supposed to do that as well, and we want to do that as well. And and I think the partnership is behind the definition of the smart cities. And at the top of that, there's technology and digitalization, which might help you to steer these kind of ideas and to help you trigger what you think, what your colleagues think, Otherwise, digitalization, without these smart people behind, or without, for instance, any efficient processes, which are invented by smart people, right? Digitalization and this technology steering these kind of things would be much more slow and not that efficient. So I think it's about the people who are just the core and denominator of the smart city.
Good answer. Was that a good answer for you, Gretel? Do you want to add anything?
I think he passed the test.
Yeah. Check. I give you all the gold medals or whatever it might be. You win a beer, and that's popular in Czech Republic, right? So treat you to a beer later on. That wonderful. So it's been a really big pleasure. So this is just when I come to you and say, thank you for coming onto the podcast and for such a nice, fantastic discussion today to both of you. And it's always fun to talk to the SPARCS partners. It's been really an interesting journey for me to getting more info from the insiders of the project. Also hearing about so many cool things from Gretel, all the time that you all are doing. So
gosh.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun to be here.
I'm glad. It wasn't too stressful, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. You can tell all the future interviewees that it's very chill here on the podcast. So,
It was.
and of course, if you want to find out more about the SPARCS project, we'll link that in the show notes for you too. You can find also on the Babel platform lots of different use cases. For example, Espo, I know, has uploaded many different interesting use cases from the project. And and take a listen to that podcast episode also. And to all of our listeners, on the platform that I mentioned, you can always create a free account on babel-smartcities.eu, and you can find out more about projects like SPARCS, different solutions, implementations, all of that jazz. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all for listening. I'll see you at the next stop on the journey to a better urban life.